Alright, so today we're going to talk about the joints within the skeletal system. And over here you can see a bunch of different joints that we're going to focus on. We're going to go through these one by one. Some of these actually have two names. And we're going to talk about how cartilage and synovial fluid and the other components of what we call the synovial joints. We'll see that word in a minute. And yeah, so that's right. So by the end of this, you should be able to describe how synovial joints work. We're also going to be able to identify the different types of joints and their structure and function, again relating structure and function together. Alright, so synovial joints, and here we see one very typically here. This is the knee bone, the knee joint, sorry. So it's where two or more bones meet. Now here we see it's 5, so we've got the patella, the two bursa, the femur and the tibia. The point, what they do, the role is to provide movement within the body through muscle action, basically. So it's not just a random floppy movement, it's controlled. And this is done by tendons and ligaments across the joint. And we'll get to that in a second. Alright, so a synovial joint, it's a free moving joint or freely moving joint because there's a space between them. You can see down here that the two bones don't touch. There's a gap between them. Now, it's not an empty space, it's filled with stuff, and it is filled with synovial fluid, and that is the lubricant which allows them to move against each other, so just grinding bone. There are 5 types that we're going to focus on. There's actually a 6th one called, but we don't stress about that, we're not going to go into it. Alright, so structures, what have you got in there? You've got ligaments. So these are collagen. Now collagen, again, very strong but super flexible. And these hold the joint together by joining the bones. And if you've ever ripped apart a lamb leg, that's the sticky, the tough bit which joins the two bones together. Now, essentially they're like strong rubber bands. They hold it together, so they prevent dislocation. So when you have a dislocation, it's a problem in the ligaments. Now, they do stretch, and that's what allows them to move. Okay, so then you got the tendons. These are tough rope-like strands which connect the muscle to the bone, and we'll see a bit more of that in a second. Then you've got synovial fluid. This is the slippery surface. It's like oil in the piston of your engine, and it basically lubricates it. And it's a synovial membrane is that which produces that and inserts it into the joint capsule. So you also have cartilage, which is quite rubbery, and it's the shock absorbent system basically, and that covers the end of the bones. And here we can see it all. So you've got the ligament which goes across and joins them together, and here you've got the tendon that comes across this way. A synovial fluid inside there. There's your cartilage, shock absorbents, and have I forgot anything? No, there's the membrane which produces it, and there's the muscle, and that's your synovial fluid. Oh, your synovial joints. So here's where we're at. Now, we're not going to focus on this one so much, and we're going to rely on that as being either planing or gliding or a pivot joint, depending on what we want it to do. But these are the ones we've got the plane or gliding joints, the saddle or double hinge. We'll get to that in a second. A hinge and a pivot where it just twists around the point, and the ball and socket, and that's your largest joint down there in your hips and shoulder. So a rounded head, like the ball, fits into a cup-shaped socket and another bone, and it has a full range of motion. Like this has the largest range of motion of all. So side to side, back and forward, rotational, and hip and shoulder joints are the big examples. The hinge. So you can see this shape down here, where it is essentially going to act like a hinge on a door. It can only go in, I guess, on one axis, backwards and forwards. This is your knee, your knuckles and elbows. The double hinge or the saddle joint, you can see how it looks like a saddle there, and you know, the inverse of that sitting on top of each other. So they're at right angles. Now this gives you side to side and back and forth, no rotation. This is your thumb. Your thumb, it doesn't rotate, and a lot of people don't really realise that their thumb is this double hinge or the saddle joint. Alright. The sliding or the plane joints. So this is where you've got two flat surfaces that sit on each other like this. Ligaments hold them together so they don't move too far, and it's got a side to side and back and forth movement. Now these are found in your vertebra, particularly it says thoracic vertebra. That means the main body ones, so here to here sort of thing. Alright, now pivot joints. So you get a cylindrical bony point. In other words, it goes up like this, and another bone has a hole in it that sits like that, and it twists. Okay, so that's where we're at there. So this rotational movement, which means it goes side to side. You can see it with the head here, and this here is your bit that pops up and goes through the circle. Alright. Alright, that wasn't so long after all. Know those joints, put those joints in a table so you can draw them. Okay, you know, draw the diagram of a schematic sort of diagram. Know how to describe them, the structure, know the function of them, and be able to describe how the structure relates to function. In other words, a hinge joint moves backwards and forwards because it has the U shape where it's not able to go in a different direction. Okay, describe structure and the function and relate them. All right.